SUNCAST podcast. This is our podcast where we are discussing evolutionary topics focused on expanding ourselves and humanity into becoming the frequency of truth and moving our consciousness into seeing through the lenses of oneness. So welcome. We're coming live all the way from One Mind. We have LaOta of the Sun, who is the guiding force and architect of this vibrant organism that we refer to as OfTheSun, providing OfTheSunners wisdom and guidance so that they can find the truth and be free. And I am Tarvars of the Sun. And I am a certified instructor and practitioner of OfTheSun modalities, also the creative director behind OfTheSun's artwork programs. And
you see the divinity in another person. You say in Lakesh to them, and they know that you see the divinity that you both share. So we have adopted this to include that we see the divinity in all things. All things are one thing. And veritas is the Latin word for truth. So we greet you with in Lakesh, oneness and truth, with honor, respect, and gratitude as the way in which to resolve the imbalance in our world. Today, we're going to talk about the 6 C's, which many of you may be familiar with. And Tarvars, do you want to start telling us a little bit about the 6 C's?
yes, I'll tell you a little bit about something here. So, the 6 C's have been around for some time now, and this is a tool that can be used to govern oneself and maintain power by monitoring our thoughts, our emotions for the following: condemning, criticizing, complaining, competition, coveting, comparing, and cowardice. Actually, I'm giving them more. I'm giving them more than 6.
You're on 7?
I'm on 7? Should I give them 8?
Yes, go ahead.
I'll give you 8. Cursing.
So these are things that if we monitor ourselves with these ideas, we'll keep ourselves at a higher level than the mass consciousness and then the darkness that's in our world. So the idea of condemning or being in judgment of another is something that will defeat us. Choosing to condemn another person's actions without considering your existence in the scenario is always a defeating moment. So the condemning is a problem. Criticizing is another problem, to actually come from within you, to speak the words of negative about another person, to not be able to see what is right, what is correct, and how it is that you can support a circumstance, or to, if you cannot, to defer from speaking about it. So that would be criticizing. And then there's complaining. So all of us know what complaining looks like. You know, it's too noisy, I don't like the way those people sound, you know, they eat too much, you know, it's too much fried chicken in here. Whatever the complaint is, constantly fills up your experience with negative that you are manifesting. You are multiplying it by voicing it, and then you are contaminating the experience and the energy around you by filling it with complaint. When you have the option to choose to see something different, or to look for what is right and to magnify that, you have that option always. As this is a free choice universe, there is always another way to look at things. Competition, which we're all so familiar with, and our world is built on competition. The Olympics, the sports, the political environment, the way we look at each other, we compete with each other. Is he cuter than me? Am I cuter than her? Is her heels higher than mine? Are my heels higher than hers? Is her baby sweeter than my baby is? Whatever the idea of competition is, it is a self-defeating process. It is important that we compete with ourselves, and we teach our children to compete with themselves. Do better than you did the last time. You made a C last time, make a B next time. Don't worry about what anyone else is doing. work towards your own advancement, work towards your own exaltation, work towards your own experience of greatness. Then coveting is another one, and this one's actually biblical. This idea of coveting. There's a 10th commandment about coveting. Don't covet your neighbor's wife, but that would be the same thing as coveting somebody's bicycle, or coveting their shoes, or coveting their girlfriend, or coveting their Porsche, or any of those kinds of things. It would be much better that from within you, you see the desire and build the desire for what it is you want without needing another person to be a director of what it is that you want. Does that make sense to you?
This makes a lot of sense. I'm seeing a theme here. Clearly, the person or the individual that is stuck in condemning, criticizing, complaining, and competition, thus far, it's all this outward expression of how the things that are out of their control and how someone else is doing them wrong, or they should have what's outside of them that's just not correct. It's just, the focus needs to be turned inward. Absolutely. From what I see thus far. But please continue. We have 8 more.
all of the C's, all of the idea of the 8 C's, which we're introducing 2 new C's today, and this is why we're doing this podcast. We're introducing 2 more C's to help you catch yourself. And you can list these things on your refrigerator. You can put them up in your bedroom, put them on the mirror. And when you catch yourself condemning yourself when you look in the mirror, you catch yourself looking at the way you look and don't like the way you look. If you catch yourself criticizing yourself, stop that. That is bringing negative into form in your experience. So this idea of coveting, of deciding that you want what someone else has, when happiness and true joy comes only from within, not from what you see without. So they have a Porsche, they wanted the Porsche, they did the things to get the Porsche, they got the Porsche. Now you want the Porsche, but you haven't done any of the things to get the Porsche.
But feel like the Porsche belongs to you.
You feel entitled to the Porsche. So that's just an unhappy equation waiting to happen there. So coveting is another thing, looking at others instead of letting the inspiration for you to have whatever you want, whatever experience, whatever material good you want, let it come from inside of you, your own desire for it, so that you can get it and hold it. There is something to be said for being able to hold the manifestation instead of being able to make it in a pan and then it disappears. How many of you know people who have made things happen and then they're not happening anymore because it wasn't really deeply rooted in their own joy? Comparing is something that we often do. We sit at our lunch tables at school when we're students or when we go to work, and we look to see, what have you got for your lunch? What's in your lunchbox? Instead of keeping our eye on our own experience and enjoying it and thinking, oh, this is so yummy, oh, I love this. The whole idea of comparing anything is a problem because there's so much more involved. Nothing is just what it appears to be. So you can't compare one person's house without knowing what goes on in the house. You can't compare what somebody's body looks like until you know what happened in the process of getting and keeping that body. And are you willing to do that? So comparing is another situation where we bring negative into us, we contaminate our environment with it, and then in our speaking it, if we speak it, then we manifest it even at a deeper level and infuse it into everything that we're doing. And we take all of this with us everywhere we go. So the new C is cowardliness, is the new C, which is the 7th C. So today we're bringing forth the 8 C's, and the 7th C is cowardliness, and this has to do with not being able to stand up in the strength of our own decisions about whatever it is we think of. This kind of energy makes the teeth in our gums be loose when we can't stand up in the foundation of who we are and speak or be or have actions that stand for whatever we stand for, or we stand for nothing, as the quote goes. The idea of cowardliness is like the idea of a lie. A lie when you lie to someone, it weakens your entire physical anatomy. It weakens your spiritual positioning in the universe because you were established in truth, and now you're not answering truth to say the truth, or you are afraid to be the truth, which then weakens you. So your muscles become weaker, your organs become weaker, your brain begins to know that it's not to, that you are programming it not to speak the truth. You have something to say about this?
That idea of not being the truth, or being afraid of the truth. One of the things that we understand here is life is bringing to us all that we are, nothing more, nothing less. And this idea of cowardliness or cowardice, and how we run away from the thing that we need to address or that we need to confront, and the reality is it's still going to be there. We leave a state, we in one relationship start another. The very thing that we were running away from, it's going to continue to follow us. And this idea of confronting it, or our inability to confront it, it literally stops us from moving forward. It stops us from having the experience that we truly want to have, but are afraid to confront that darkness that is stopping us from having that experience.
In every case, with every C, we see that we are weakened and defeated by the C's. So if we are cowardly, we are weakened and we are defeated by our own lack of being able to be forthright, to stand within what we think. And if we don't know what we think, then we should be in that position rather than accept something that we do know is wrong. So this idea of standing in the strength, it actually holds the body together better. Otherwise, it's more like a sloppy equation, 2 + 1 = 12. That's really not the case. So it's important that we are able to be in the integrity of the truth, because the truth is its own support. The truth is part of creation from all that is, that supports all of us. And the airplanes in the air. In the background. The final C of today is cursing, which is another form of self-defeatism, another form of destroying self. That when we curse, when we make sure that the magic of the words that have been brought to manifest our life, when we're the lowest common denominator, and then we hurl those low common denominators at others, we realize what a curse actually is. These are curse words. When we say words that are less than uplifting, and we inflict them on another, it truly is a curse. Like, may you have the lack of stability and the lack of the strength that the real words that describe you would give you. I'm going to give you something less than that, and I'm going to give it to you loud and often. So this is another way that we defeat ourselves, because we become the manifester of less than what is right. Do you have something on that?
Yeah, so I'm looking at this through the lenses of oneness, and I'm like, man, the individual who is doing the cursing, this is again all an outward experience, as if everything that's outside of them is the problem instead of looking at oneself. So if we're seeing through the lenses of oneness, we know that that issue that we have with the person who we want to curse, it's really us. Right. And it's an opportunity for healing and transformation to take place, get that win. But again, I see just how clearly it keeps us out of our power, and I think the way you explained it is also real practical for people, because when people hear the word curse, they probably even thinking you got to have a pointy hat, green skin, and a wart on your nose and a cauldron. It don't work. I mean, it probably do work that way, but it's more normal and happening regularly than what we think. And it's exactly through the examples that you gave, using words that are at such a low vibration and trying to force that idea upon another. I mean, would you do that to yourself?
Well, actually, you are doing it to yourself.
Ooh.
In truth, you are. When you condemn, when you criticize, when you complain, when you're in competition, when you covet, when you compare, when you're a coward, when you curse, you are condemning yourself to all of those things, because you are the manifester. You are the creator, and you are the recipient, and then you are the person who becomes the victim of that experience. This is very important. We would encourage you to write down and to copy down the 8 C's. I will give them to you once again. Condemning. Let us teach our children, by us not condemning others, not to condemn others, not to be in judgment. How is it that we have all existed, however long we've existed, through the grace of our world and of the energy of our world, all that is and all that is in creation, the patience that has been given to us, that we are so unaware of that we can be in judgment and not be patient with anyone else. Criticizing, pretty much the same thing. To voice, when there's an opportunity to uplift, to voice words that don't uplift. To complain, to fill the atmosphere with an energy pattern of I don't want, I don't like, this is not what I want to do, and then not have used any of your energy to make it correct. And that word correct is one of the words we're going to give you on the other side of the 8 C's. Competition. This idea that we should compete with others so that we can prove our ego stronger, better, greater, when we are all one thing, we are all together, is an idea that makes separatism. It makes all things be separate. It makes every piece of you separate from the other aspects of you. So the other aspect of you, your other self that lives next door, if you're in competition with it, you make that other you further away, instead of bringing it together so that you would have more power to overcome the greater forces that need to be fought. Coveting. Coveting is an idea of truly laziness. Like, you can't think of what you want yourself. You got to think of what somebody else thought of, and then try to have what they had because you didn't think of it. You want to say something about that?
There's just a couple of people coming to mind. Even my old self.
And then this idea of comparing, like, how is it that you can have such a small amount of information? The information that we have from birth to death is still such a fraction, so small, of who we are as humanity. How could you possibly ever have enough information to make a comparison? You don't have all the other lifetimes, all the other iterations, all the other planets we've visited. You don't have that, you can't compare. The candles are a perfect gift because everyone understands that energy is left behind from sadness or depression or arguments. Everyone is really understanding how that is a wonderful experience. We have heard from people who've received these as gift that it's the best gift they've ever gotten because it changes the environment of their experience. It can be given to anyone at any time. Just looking at the candles, just choose, think of the person, look at the candle, and then see what color you're most drawn to, and that would be the right color for them. Almost all of us, the entire lower chakras are congested, so you really can't go wrong by giving a color, although it's great to allow the person to accumulate, to yourself or the person to accumulate all of the different colors.
Even if you're looking at just this lifetime, there's so many differences and nuances within the DNA and the experiences that we're having. It would be silly to compare ourselves.
To think that you can compare, yes. How is it that you can, the old adage of how can you walk in the shoes of another without having walked in the shoes of another? You know, how can you be in judgment? How can you compare yourself when you haven't lived that experience and that it's not your soul path and it's not even your destiny? How is it that you can, how much do you have to ignore? How much has to be ignored for you to think that you have enough information to come to an absolute decision about someone and then imprint that upon them as a judgment, as a penalty. It's just not an appropriate place to be. And cowardliness, or being a coward in the face of the truth, when all around us, everything we see that is in nature and is in the natural order of things that represents life is here in front of us for us to see. And then when we see all the things that have been made that make us sick, medicine, cell phones, EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies, satellites, things in our air, loud noises. Words don't make that much noise.
And it's much more pleasant.
When they do, right. All of these things are anti-life. So when we're looking to stand up to something, we can start by standing up to what is life and what is anti-life. What is it that is made with divine intelligence through creation, and what is being made by man and being missed? How much is being missed? How much is being overlooked in the digital imprint of what man is making? It's not that we are not in accord with science, but much of the science is incomplete, and we have been injected with quite a bit of it over many decades and much of our history, not to our greatest benefit. So to be, in the broadest sense, to not be a coward would be to stand up and rail against what is not life, what is not for us, what is not the truth, and have the truth support you in it and see what happens. What I find is that when people tell the truth, often the lie collapses. It's just not a thing. It was all in their mind, and the whole thing collapses. If we were to stand up in our world against the things that are anti-life, that are being pushed upon us, the artificial intelligent women, the test tube babies, the things that there's not enough information we can see from our scientists' past history, there's not enough information for us to be moving forward with some of these things. It's important that we stand for the truth, or we stand for nothing, and we may not stand long.
I have something on
Yes.
that idea, the cowardice. I was thinking of it in more direct, like what's in front of us.
Yes.
So the things that we know that you were speaking about, this idea of what serves life, what gives life, what is death, through our thoughts, our emotions. What emotion are these emotions giving you life, or is it draining and depleting you? The relationships that you're in, the thoughts that you're thinking, is it giving you life, or is it doing the opposite? And having the courage to say no.
Yes.
I won't have
That's
this concept that's draining and depleting me. I choose life, which may look like one of the practices that we often show.
Absolutely. And then the final idea would be cursing, which diminishes all parties involved. The idea that you're thinking up a way to make something less than it should be. Finding words that will have a negative effect that you can imprint, that you can throw, or a sling, or point your arrow to, and attach a word that is not in the person's highest and best interest. Some of this comes from being so unhappy, and some of it comes from being comfortable with the shallow understandings of words. Words are magical. If you don't use them fully and completely and to their best advantage, you are not able to access the power that comes with the words, which are connected to our DNA. That's why we don't want to speak a certain way in front of growing young minds, because then the mind accepts that as truth, and the truth is actually greater than the experience of always cursing. And the idea of cursing and leaving your environment, we are property clearers. So when we clear a property, we can see the walls and the paint are suffering from the low level vibrations of the kind of language that's been used to insult and to make less than in the experience. This kind of experience, of course, comes back on the person who did it. You take yourself with you everywhere you go. So if you take yourself into a mansion and you're a person who does that, the mansion will be contaminated with yourself, with the low frequency being hurled at others because you don't know that you have more power. There's much more power available to all of us than choosing to take the lowest common experience of cursing and use that, which everyone is doing, so it certainly doesn't make you special. So there is that.
I had to let that breathe out there. This is very interesting because my generation, especially people who I've noticed, even people who are on the quote-unquote spiritual path of evolution, they may use vulgar language to get that point across, and it's kind of like those mixed signals or mixed algorithms that you're sending to the universe. It's like you want to be clean and pristine and pure, like show that you're of righteousness or the light, but what's coming out of your mouth is light mixed with toxicity. It's just like this incongruent idea, so...
And there's so many other ways to say it. If you want to fornicate with an idea like that, you need to make sure you use the words that will be uplifting even in that description.
That goes back to, you said something about being lazy. That will require more will and to use your mind.
And it's the same thing. It is all right to make an observation, but it is not all right to be stuck in the observation as if it is destiny. It is now, and it is the future as well. When we say words that condemn or that diminish or that would be considered curse words, we are automatically bringing that person to a lower level, and we are the escort. We're escorting them right into hell with us. It is the person who generates it that will feel the full brunt of it. And then the others have been made a victim by you. So you have become the aggressor. So there's just not a good solution for cursing in this. So now we have the 8 C's, and we recommend that you work with these to keep your elevation high. And it may require some practice, but you will feel lighter and less negative will come into your experience because you'll be a magnet for all the others who are cursing and all the others who are in competition and all the others who are comparing and all the others who are doing this. If you speak this, then you become a magnet for it so that everyone feels free to layer theirs upon you. And then it exasperates the situation.
So we're clear on these C's. I'm sure there's somebody out there thinking, all right, so what do I do when I see myself condemning, or I want to curse this person out? Or I'm feeling some type of way and sizing myself up, measuring myself to someone else in my experience.
What do you do to rise?
What do I do? I do it all. I do it all.
What does that mean?
Oh, more you say. Okay, so I do a number of things. So this, going back to the basics, the condemning, the criticizing, complaining, this is all taking away our power. So essentially, we're monitoring ourselves throughout the day. I like to monitor myself for competition. That has been a thing. This looking outside of myself, and I know that this has been a thing with me throughout my life. Being an artist, looking at other artists, looking at my artwork, looking at theirs, you know how we do, and seeing how that's something that I work through. So when I see thoughts of competition, because I'm monitoring, I'm scanning my thoughts for this when it happens, and then I'll call for correction.
Yes.
I'll call for truth.
Yes.
But it's not just saying it, like I feel it, let me correct this, and I see that that's not what I want, because clearly I'm greater than whatever measuring stick that I'm holding up against me and this person, but also the fact that it don't even make sense to do that, because that's not how our reality is designed.
That's right.
We are all divine. We all come equipped with our own things that make us us, and let's be in acceptance and harmony and in gratitude, which is another thing, another tool, which comes through with the whole responsibility, calling forth, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, freeing myself of the emotion that was associated with that program of, oh, let me look at them and look at me, and we are the same, because I'm too busy thinking that that person's greater than me, when in reality no one's really greater than anyone else. We're all part of the oneness. Just play your role, live your divinity. And using these tools, it has really helped me with staying in alignment, not falling in and out, because essentially these things, we fall from grace whenever we're dropping into condemning, because it's not a part of the law. It's like you're living outside of the law, and the law begins to work against you instead of being in alignment with the law and the whole universe and divine principles. So, I mean, this has been a game changer for me, just using those tools.
The tools that we teach at OfTheSun, we teach, one of the tools is to call for the truth. And that's as simple as this. I call for the truth. I call to see the truth. Like from my eyes, I call to look at another soul and see the truth of them. I call to hear the truth. I call to hear, even in the discordant sounds, I call to hear the truth that's there. I call to speak the truth, even if I need to think about it for a moment, because what's in front of me is making me go a little deeper to see the truth and the positive in it. I call for the frequency of truth to come into my experience and let that uplift me. And then let that be my truth. So we call for the truth. We also encourage everyone at night when you go to bed to call on the creation from all that is called correction. The consciousness, the living, sentient consciousness of correction to come into your experience and look at you and start making the corrections, so that we can have a world where when something wonderful happens to you, we can all rejoice and we can feel like, oh, something wonderful has happened to an aspect of me. I don't need to destroy them. I don't need to tear them down. I don't need to be their critic. Shall they be uplifted? Shall I be uplifted? Shall this be the correction? This is what correction will do. This doesn't cost you anything. And we have a little interference in the background. But this doesn't cost anything for you to do it. For you to call for courage and make sure that you speak the truth in a world of lies. That you stand on the truth, the foundation of truth will keep you safe. Because if you stand for nothing, if you're afraid of everything, you're going to be the first one who goes down. You must know that to call for the truth, to stand on the truth, to make sure that you are not a coward, will mean that you do better than those who don't. When you are talking to someone and they say something against someone else, and you say nothing, you are the one who just got aggressed, because they made you be in agreement with what with what you are not in agreement with. You have been aggressed. You have been made because of your cowardliness, you have made yourself a victim. This is what's going on in our world. If we stand and say nothing, we become the victims of the experience of the lie. It is the truth we call for. Shall we have nothing less than the truth? Shall we call for nothing less than the truth in our lives? All of our relationships would improve. Confidence is another idea, to look into yourself and to call up from your root chakra what truth you know about yourself. You know you're good looking, you know you're smart, you know that you have something to offer. Bring it forward, but don't bring it forward and then bludgeon me with it. Don't beat me over the head with it, with your criticism and your 8 C's. Bring it forward and stand within it, and let us all glory at you in your confidence. And then to be centered. So you have 4 C's. Be centered. Walk barefoot on the ground, on cement, on wood. Center yourself. Stop drinking sodas that have 17 teaspoons of sugar. Stop eating processed food that is not actually food and is genetically modified and probably has MSG in it, so you think it tastes good. Stop with all the things that are self-sabotage. Uphold yourself as a divine being. Know that you're a part of the polarity of creation. We are calling back the power of the divine feminine into our world because she has been erased. There is no power of the divine feminine, so to speak. We are not even a footnote in the story of man. In this world, as in creation, there are two polarities. All of you are 50% the divine feminine because every human has been born in this world, in this dimension, on this planet, in this universe, through a woman. So you are 50% the divine feminine. Call back that portion of yourself. And I will give you a method, if you would like to do that, to help you. Call to activate the right side of your brain. And any of you who are with us now, do it now, and you'll feel the right side of your brain come into response to your request for it to activate. And then ask to strengthen the left side of your body, the receiver side, the feminine side, the side that needs to bring in energy and to be psychic and to know the future. Call that aspect of yourself forward. When you're standing somewhere, stand on your left foot, strengthen your left side. When you can pick something up with your left hand, strengthen the left side of you. Activate your right brain all day long. Strengthen the left side of your body. Call forth the power of the divine feminine back into our world through the idea of being more psychic, being more intuitive, being more on the energy side. This is a method for you to use for your greatest and highest elevation. This is what we wanted to speak to you about today. We're so glad that we were able to live stream with you. Do you have any final comments?
Yes, I was spaced out in meditation.
On the right side of the brain?
And I could feel it, and it's just the whole right side lit up, the left side just tuned in. I feel this fluid motion of energy, and again calling forth the balance of the divine feminine within me, and again strengthening those intuitive areas, those areas of myself that where I can feel and receive information. That way I can articulate that through the masculine, that directive energy, bringing the balance between the two, and it felt good too.
The idea that we live in a world where people are, I don't believe in that, but so this world that we're in, the pandemic, the prison planet, the place where all of our food is genetically modified, that's the result of that thinking.
Yeah.
Together, join us. Call for the power of the divine feminine to come back into our world so that we can rid ourselves of greed and jealousy and anger and war. Call back the part of us that can intuit the future, that can know what's going on, and give all of ourselves honor, respect, and gratitude. This is the way.